AITA for refusing to sell my house to fund my sister's wellness retreat wedding, because my parents say she prevents disease, while I just operate machines. Posted to r/am/asshole. I, 31M, have been a dialysis technician for 8 years. I work at a clinic where I help keep people with kidney failure alive. 3 days a week, sometimes more, I'm responsible for monitoring patients during their 4-hour dialysis sessions. I check their vitals, manage the machines, watch for complications, adjust treatments, and sometimes I'm the person holding someone's hand when they're terrified or in pain. My sister Emma, 27F, is a fitness influencer. She has about 400K followers on Instagram and does sponsored posts for protein powder, yoga mats, and various supplements. She talks a lot about preventing disease through wellness and choosing health. Our parents, 59M, 57F, have always been obsessed with her. I'm not exaggerating, it's been this way since we were kids. Here's some context that might help explain the situation. When I graduated from my certification program, my parents didn't come to the ceremony. My mom said they had a conflict, but then posted photos from Emma's spin class that same day. When I got promoted to senior technician, my dad asked if that meant I was still just pushing buttons for sick people. When Emma hit 100K followers, they threw her a party and invited the extended family. I've worked hard and saved money. 2 years ago, I bought a small 2-bedroom house in a modest neighborhood. Nothing fancy, 1,200 square feet, needed some work, but it's mine. I paid the down payment myself and have been slowly fixing it up. My parents have never visited. Emma got engaged 6 months ago to Marcus, 33M, who is a nephrologist. The irony of this is not lost on me. She's marrying a kidney doctor while I work with kidney patients daily. We've never really talked about my work because family gatherings tend to center around Emma's latest brand deal or wellness retreat. Last week, my parents called me with a proposal. They want me to sell my house and give them the proceeds, somewhere around $180,000 after the mortgage is paid off, to help fund Emma's dream wedding. She wants a wellness retreat wedding at a luxury resort in Costa Rica. The cost? About $250,000. My parents are contributing $50,000 of their own savings, and they've apparently decided my house should cover the rest. Here's the part that broke something in me. My mom said, and I quote, "Emma inspires healthy living for hundreds of thousands of people. She prevents disease. You just treat it after people are already sick. She's doing more important work, and this wedding will be a platform for her to reach even more people. You operate machines, honey. Emma changes lives." My dad chimed in, "We're not saying your job isn't useful. Someone has to run the equipment. But Emma is building something. Your house is just sitting there. You can always rent an apartment." I said no. I told them I wasn't selling my house for anyone's wedding. My mom started crying and said I was being selfish, that I've always been jealous of Emma, and that this is my chance to support the family for once. Emma texted me afterward saying she was disappointed in me and that she thought I'd be happy to help her celebrate love and wellness. She said my job is honorable in its own way, but that I should understand why what she does matters more to society. I haven't responded. Here's the thing, I keep thinking about my patients. Mrs. Patterson is 67 and has been on dialysis for 9 years. She's a grandmother who wants to see her grandkids grow up. Mr. Reyes is 45 and waiting for a transplant. He comes in 3 times a week and always brings me coffee because he says I'm the only reason he's still alive to hope for a new kidney. There's Darnell, who's 23 and was diagnosed with kidney failure at 19, and he's working toward his degree between sessions because he refuses to let his disease define him. These people trust me with their lives. Literally. If I miss a warning sign, if I don't catch a blood pressure drop or a clotting issue, they could die. I've had patients code on my watch. I've held people's hands while they cry because their fistula blew and they're in agony. I've explained to families why their loved one had a bad session. And my family thinks I just operate machines. I don't know what to do. Part of me feels like I should just accept that my parents will never see my work as valuable. But another part of me is so angry I can barely function. I've spent 8 years dedicating my life to helping people survive, and to my own family, I'm just a machine operator. Am I the asshole for refusing to sell my house? Am I being selfish? Should I try to find some way to contribute to the wedding even if I don't give everything? Update 1. Something happened at work that I need to share. It's been 2 weeks since my original post, and I want to thank everyone who commented. I read every single response, and I won't lie, I cried multiple times. Having strangers validate that my work matters meant more than I can express. Something happened yesterday that I need to process. One of my regular patients, Dr. Margaret Chen, 72F, is a retired therapist. She's been coming to our clinic for about 4 years now. We've always had good conversations during her sessions. She asks about my life, remembers details, genuinely seems interested. But yesterday was different. I was checking her vitals about 2 hours into her session when she looked at me and said, "Daniel, something is wrong. You've been distracted for weeks. Your smile doesn't reach your eyes anymore." What happened? I don't know why, but I broke. Maybe it was the exhaustion, maybe it was the fact that this woman who I helped keep alive noticed something my own parents never would, but I told her everything. About the wedding, about what my mom said, about feeling invisible my entire life. Dr. Chen was quiet for a long time. Then she said something that fundamentally changed how I see my childhood. "Daniel, what you're describing is textbook emotional neglect with a golden child/scapegoat dynamic. Your parents didn't just favor your sister, they systematically devalued you to elevate her. Every time they dismissed your achievements, every time they described your work as just something, they were reinforcing that your worth is conditional and lesser. This isn't about you being sensitive or jealous. This is about a pattern of emotional abuse that you've been conditioned to accept." I actually had to sit down. One of the other techs noticed and came over to take my place while I composed myself. Dr. Chen continued during the rest of her session. "The fact that they're asking you to literally liquidate your security, your home, to fund your sister's party tells you everything about how they view your place in the family. You are not a person to them. You are a resource. And the justification they gave, that preventing disease is more important than treating it, is not only medically absurd, it's a window into how they've rationalized treating you as lesser your entire life." She made me promise to find a therapist, and she gave me 3 recommendations. She also said something I'll never forget. "You know what I think about during dialysis? I think about the fact that without you, without the technicians who monitor me, who notice when my blood pressure drops, who make sure the machine is working correctly, I would die. Not might die. Would die. My kidneys are gone, Daniel. They're not coming back. All the yoga in the world, all the wellness retreats and green smoothies, cannot replace what you do for me 3 times a week. You keep me alive. That's not pushing buttons. That's holding my life in your hands." I went home and cried for 2 hours. I've started seeing a therapist. Her name is Dr. Williams, and she specializes in adult survivors of emotionally neglectful families. In our first session, she helped me see patterns I never noticed. How I always minimize my own achievements, how I apologize constantly, how I assume I'm bothering people by existing, how I've internalized my parents' view that my work is lesser. My parents have called multiple times. I haven't answered. Emma has sent several texts ranging from confused to annoyed to accusatory. She called me passive-aggressive for not responding. I'm just not ready to talk to any of them yet. But something else happened that I need to mention. Marcus, Emma's fiancé, sent me a text asking if we could meet for coffee. He said he wanted to discuss something, and that it was important. I haven't responded yet because I don't know what he wants. Is he going to pressure me about the house too? I'm anxious about it. I'll update when I know more. Update 2. I met with Marcus, and I was not prepared for this conversation. Okay. So this happened 3 days ago and I'm still processing it. I agreed to meet Marcus for coffee at a cafe near his hospital. I was expecting pressure, maybe guilt-tripping, or at best an awkward conversation where he tried to mediate between me and Emma. What I got instead was something I never anticipated. Marcus sat down, ordered a black coffee, and looked at me with an expression I can only describe as barely contained fury. But it wasn't directed at me. "Daniel," he said, "I need to apologize to you. And I need to tell you what happened this week." Apparently, Marcus had overheard Emma on the phone with our mom, discussing me. He heard our mom say the machine operator thing. He heard Emma say my job was honorable in its own way. He heard them talking about my house as if it were already sold, as if my refusal was just a temporary inconvenience they'd eventually overcome. Marcus is a nephrologist. He specializes in kidney disease. His entire career is built on helping people with failing kidneys, and he works closely with dialysis teams daily. "Do you have any idea," he said, his voice tight, "how I felt hearing my fiancé's family dismiss dialysis technicians? Do you know what your job means to me? To my patients." He told me about a patient he'd lost 6 months ago, a young woman, 29, who went into cardiac arrest during dialysis because a technician at a different clinic missed warning signs. He told me about the patients who survive because skilled technicians catch problems before they become catastrophic. He told me that in his field, dialysis technicians are considered essential partners in patient care, not machine operators. "The idea that your family thinks Emma's Instagram posts about wellness are more valuable than what you do," he stopped, took a breath. I'm sorry. I'm genuinely angry about this. I had no idea this was how they treated you. I didn't know what to say. I think I just stared at him for a while. Then he told me what he'd done. He'd sat Emma down that night and confronted her about what he'd heard. He'd told her that he couldn't marry someone who fundamentally disrespected a career that he considers vital to his patient's survival. He'd told her that he was deeply disturbed by the family dynamic and that he wouldn't participate in it. Emma, apparently, was shocked. She'd never thought about it from that perspective. Marcus told her that he wanted them to start premarital counseling immediately, specifically to address this issue, and that he wouldn't move forward with the wedding until she genuinely understood why what she'd said was harmful. I'm not doing this to punish her, Marcus said. I love Emma. But I can't build a life with someone who doesn't understand the value of what people like you do. My patients depend on dialysis teams. If my own wife dismisses that work, what does that say about how she sees my values? My career. The people I serve. I finally found my voice. I asked him if Emma had agreed to the counseling. She cried, he said. She was defensive at first. She said she never meant to hurt you, that she didn't realize how it sounded. But when I explained what dialysis technicians do, really do, she got quiet. I showed her case studies. I told her about the patient I lost. I explained that without skilled technicians, dialysis would just be a slow way to die. He paused. She asked me why no one had ever told her this before. And I realized, your family has been operating in a bubble. Your parents elevated Emma's work and diminished yours so consistently that she genuinely didn't understand what you do. She's not evil. She's been conditioned, just like you were, but in the opposite direction. She was taught her work saves lives and yours doesn't. It's not true, but it's what she was raised to believe. Marcus asked if I would be willing to talk to Emma after they'd had a few counseling sessions. He said he wasn't asking me to forgive or forget anything. He was asking if I'd give her a chance to genuinely understand and apologize. I told him I'd think about it. Before we left, he said one more thing. Daniel, I want you to know something. In my field, we call dialysis teams our partners in survival. Every nephrologist I know has profound respect for technicians. Your patients aren't surviving because of a machine. They're surviving because of you. The machine is just a tool. You're the one keeping them alive. I drove home in silence. When I got there, I sat in my car in the driveway of the house my parents wanted me to sell and cried. Again. Update 3. The counseling, the apology, and the conversation with my parents. It's been 6 weeks since my last update. A lot has happened. Emma and Marcus have been in intensive premarital counseling. From what Marcus has told me, it's been difficult but productive. Emma has had to confront a lot of assumptions she didn't even realize she held, not just about me, but about how she values different types of work in general. 2 weeks ago, Emma called me. Not texted, called. When I answered, she was already crying. Daniel, she said, I need to say something to you, and I need you to let me finish before you respond. Please. I agreed. What followed was the most real conversation I've ever had with my sister. She told me that through counseling, she'd realized she had absorbed our parents' hierarchy of value without ever questioning it. She'd been told her whole life that her work was special, transformative, world-changing. She'd been told my work was necessary but lesser, the backstage work while she was the star. And she'd never stopped to think about whether any of that was true. Marcus took me to his clinic, she said. He introduced me to the dialysis team. He showed me what they do. He explained the complications they watch for, the emergencies they handle, the training they need. And then he asked me if I thought any of those patients would survive on wellness tips alone. She paused, gathering herself. I felt so stupid, Daniel. So unbelievably stupid. Because the answer is obviously no. Without dialysis, without the people who run it, those patients would die. Period. And I've been walking around thinking my protein powder sponsorships were more important than that. She apologized. Really, genuinely apologized. Not a sorry you feel that way non-apology, but a real acknowledgement that she had hurt me, devalued me, and participated in a family system that treated me as lesser. I'm not asking you to forgive me immediately, she said. I know I haven't earned that. I just needed you to know that I see it now. I see what I did. And I'm so sorry. I told her I needed time. She said she understood. Then, 4 days ago, something else happened. My parents called. Both of them, together. They wanted to discuss the wedding situation. I almost didn't answer, but my therapist had been encouraging me to set boundaries directly rather than avoiding conflict, so I picked up. The conversation started predictably. My mom launched into how I'd been difficult and selfish. My dad said they were disappointed in my lack of family loyalty. They said they'd reconsidered and decided that even if I wouldn't sell the house, I could at least contribute $30,000 from my savings to do my part. I let them talk. I didn't interrupt. When they finished, I said, "Let me tell you about my day today." I described Mrs. Patterson's session that morning, how her blood pressure had dropped suddenly, how I'd caught it in time, how I'd worked with the nurse to stabilize her. I described the new patient we trained, a 51-year-old man who was terrified, and how I'd spent an hour walking him through the process, answering his questions, calming his fears. I described Darnell showing me his latest grades, how he'd made the dean's list while managing dialysis 3 times a week. "These are the people I just operate machines for," I said. "These are the lives I hold in my hands every single day. And you want me to sell my home, my security, my stability, to fund a party. You're asking me to sacrifice my future for a wedding because you think Emma's work matters more than mine." My mom started to interrupt, but I kept going. "I'm not going to do that. Not because I'm selfish. Because I deserve to have stability. I deserve to have a home. I've worked hard for what I have, and my work has value, real, tangible, life or death value. You can choose not to see that. But I'm not going to live by your hierarchy anymore." There was a long silence. My dad finally said, "We're not saying your job doesn't have value." "Yes, you are," I interrupted. "You literally said Emma changes lives and I operate machines. You compared her Instagram posts to the work I do keeping critically ill people alive. You've been saying this my whole life, in 100 different ways." I just finally started listening. My mom tried a different angle. "We're just trying to give Emma a beautiful wedding. Don't you want your sister to be happy?" "I want Emma to be happy," I said. "I also want to be treated like my life matters. I'm not sure why those two things have to be in conflict." The conversation ended without resolution. My parents were upset. I was exhausted. But for the first time in my life, I'd said what I actually felt instead of apologizing and minimizing. Update 4. Final: the wedding, the speech, and the future. It's been 3 months since my last update. I need to tell you all what happened. The Costa Rica Wellness Retreat wedding didn't happen. After our conversation, after the counseling, after Marcus's ultimatum, things shifted. Emma made a decision that genuinely surprised me. She called me about 6 weeks ago and asked if we could meet in person. I agreed. We met at a coffee shop halfway between our places, and she came with a folder full of papers. "I've been doing a lot of thinking," she said. "About the wedding, about our family, about what I actually want versus what I thought I was supposed to want." She told me she'd realized the Costa Rica wedding wasn't really about celebrating her marriage. It was about performing success, about creating content, about living up to an image she'd built. When she stripped away the Instagram expectations, what she actually wanted was to marry Marcus surrounded by people she loved, in a place that felt meaningful. "So I'm changing everything," she said. She showed me the new plans. A modest ceremony at a local botanical garden. A reception at a restaurant she and Marcus loved. Total cost, about $15,000. Her and Marcus were paying for it themselves. "I don't want Mom and Dad's money," she said. "And I definitely don't want yours. I want to start my marriage without this cloud over it. Without feeling like I asked my brother to sacrifice his home for my party." I didn't know what to say. "There's something else," she continued. "I want you to be part of the ceremony. Not as a regular guest. I want you to do a reading, or say something. I want everyone there to know how important you are to me." I told her I'd think about it. Over the next few weeks, Emma and I talked more than we had in years. Real conversations, about our childhood, about our parents, about the dynamics that shaped us. She told me things I never knew, that our parents had pressured her constantly to perform, that her entire sense of self-worth was tied to external validation, that she'd spent years feeling like she'd fail them if she didn't become special. "We were both damaged," she said. "Just in different ways. I was told I had to be exceptional or I'd be worthless. You were told you were already worthless. Neither of us was allowed to just be okay." It didn't excuse what she'd said, but it helped me understand it. The wedding was last weekend. It was small, about 60 people. The botanical garden was beautiful, all autumn colors and soft light filtering through the trees. Emma looked genuinely happy, not performatively happy. Marcus looked at her like she was the only person in the world. When it came time for my reading, I walked to the front of the gathering. I'd prepared something, but in the moment, I set my notes aside. Most of you know Emma as a wellness influencer, I said. Someone who inspires people to live healthier lives. What you might not know is that I'm a dialysis technician. I work with patients whose kidneys have failed, helping them survive through treatment 3 times a week. I looked at Emma, who was watching me with tears already forming. For a long time, I thought those two things were opposites. Prevention versus treatment. Success versus whatever I am. But I've learned something over the past few months. Prevention and treatment aren't opposites, they're partners. The people I work with, the patients I help keep alive, many of them are fighting for the chance to get healthier. They're hoping for transplants. They're changing their diets, managing their conditions, working toward futures they might not have had without dialysis. Emma's work, when it reaches those people, gives them something to hope for. My work gives them the time to get there. I paused. So today, as Emma and Marcus start their life together, I want to say this: I'm proud of my sister. Not because she has followers or sponsorships, but because she's done something harder than any wellness routine. She looked at herself honestly. She changed. She grew. And she came to understand that keeping people alive so they can pursue health, that's valuable work too. I looked at the guests, at Marcus's colleagues, some of whom I now knew were nephrologists and nurses who worked with dialysis teams. To Emma and Marcus, may your marriage be a partnership as strong as the one between prevention and treatment. May you keep each other alive and keep each other striving. I love you both. I sat down. Emma was openly crying. Marcus mouthed, "Thank you." After the ceremony, Emma pulled me aside. "I have something to tell you," she said. "I've been working on a new initiative. Marcus helped me develop it." She showed me her phone. Her Instagram was open to a new highlight called Kidney Health Awareness. She'd started creating content about kidney disease, about prevention, yes, but also about treatment, about dialysis, about the technicians who make survival possible. "This one's already gone viral," she said, showing me a post. It was a video of her visiting Marcus's clinic. She'd interviewed dialysis technicians, asking them about their work. She'd shown the machines, explained the process, talked about the skill and attention required. At the end, she looked at the camera and said, "I used to think what I did was more important than what treatment workers do. I was wrong. Prevention matters. Treatment matters. And the people who keep patients alive while they fight for their health, they deserve our respect, our appreciation, and our support. My brother is one of those people. This is for him, and for every dialysis technician who holds lives in their hands." It had 3 million views. I stared at the screen for a long time. "I'm not going to pretend this fixes everything," Emma said quietly. "But I want to do better. I want to use my platform for something real. And I want you to know that I see you now. I really see you." I hugged my sister. I think it was the first genuine hug we'd shared in years. Where we are now. My parents haven't really changed. They came to the wedding, but they were subdued, uncomfortable with the modest venue, the small guest list, the lack of spectacle. They haven't apologized. My therapist says they might never, and I'm learning to accept that. But I've changed. I've stopped waiting for their approval. I've stopped minimizing my work. When people ask what I do, I don't say, "I just work in dialysis." I say, "I keep people with kidney failure alive." Because that's the truth. Emma and I talk regularly now. She's thrown herself into kidney health advocacy with the same energy she once devoted to supplement sponsorships. Marcus jokes that he's created a monster. His wife now knows more about nephrology than half his colleagues. Last week, Emma posted a new video, Dialysis Technician Appreciation. It featured interviews with technicians from 5 different clinics, including mine. My patients were so excited when they found out I was related to that wellness influencer who actually gets it now. Mrs. Patterson told me she'd shared the video with her entire family. "Finally," she said, "someone famous explaining what you do for us. Maybe now people will understand." I think about my house sometimes, the one my parents wanted me to sell. I'm still fixing it up, slowly. I painted the bedroom last month. I'm planning to redo the kitchen next year. It's not much, but it's mine. I earned it. And nobody is going to take it from me. To everyone who responded to my original post, who validated my work and my worth, thank you. You helped me see myself clearly for the first time in my life. And to any other machine operators out there, dialysis techs, rad techs, respiratory therapists, anyone whose work is dismissed as just something, you are not just anything. You are essential. You hold lives in your hands. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. TLDR, Parents wanted me to sell my house to fund sister's $250,000 wellness retreat wedding because she prevents disease, while I just operate machines as a dialysis tech. Through therapy, a retired therapist patient's intervention, and my sister's nephrologist fiancé being furious that dialysis work was dismissed, my sister went through premarital counseling, gained genuine understanding, and had a modest local wedding where she thanked me for keeping people alive so they can get healthy. She now advocates for kidney health awareness and dialysis technician appreciation. Parents still haven't changed, but I have. My house is still mine. My wife handled our finances for 12 years. Then debt collectors showed up at my fire station. I owed $200,000 I never borrowed. True off my chest. I've been a firefighter for 14 years. I've pulled people from car wrecks at 3 in the morning. I've carried children out of burning houses while their parents screamed from the lawn. I've held the hands of elderly men taking their last breaths while we waited for paramedics who couldn't get there fast enough. I thought I'd seen the worst that life could throw at a person. I was wrong. 3 weeks ago, I was at the station finishing up paperwork from a call we'd run earlier that morning. Grease fire in an apartment complex, nothing major, everyone got out safe. It was a Tuesday, around 2 p.m. I remember because Tuesdays are usually quiet, and I was thinking about what I'd grill for dinner when I got home the next morning. My captain appeared in the doorway of the bunk room. He had a strange look on his face, uncomfortable, almost apologetic. That alone should have told me something was wrong. In 20 years, I'd never seen him look uncomfortable about anything. "Hey, there's 2 guys here asking for you," he said. "Suits. They're in the visitor area." I figured it was insurance adjusters or maybe someone from the city about some inspection. I walked out wiping my hands on my pants, professional smile ready. 2 men stood near the entrance. Dark suits, briefcases, expressions that were practiced neutral. The taller one stepped forward when he saw me. "Are you?" And he said my full legal name. "That's me. What can I do for you?" He handed me a folder. "We're from a collections agency representing First National Credit Union and 3 additional creditors. You're being served notice of intent to collect on outstanding debts totaling $217,000. I actually laughed. I remember that clearly. I laughed, because it had to be a mistake. "I think you've got the wrong guy. I don't have any debts like that. Our mortgage is current. We've got maybe a few thousand on a credit card. Sir, this includes a second mortgage on your property at," and he read my home address. "A personal loan from First National for $62,000. A line of credit from Capital One for $43,000. 3 additional credit cards with combined balances of..." The world started tilting. I felt my captain's hand on my shoulder, but I couldn't look at him. I was staring at the folder in my hands like it might explode. "There has to be a mistake," I said. My voice sounded strange. Far away. "I didn't take out any of these. I didn't sign anything." The shorter man spoke for the first time. His voice was almost gentle, which somehow made it worse. "Sir, we have documentation with your signature on all accounts. If you believe there's been fraud, you'll need to file a report with your local police department and contact each creditor individually. In the meantime, you are legally obligated to respond to these collection notices within 30 days. They left me standing there with a folder full of documents that had apparently been signed by me over the past 5 years. Loans I never applied for. Credit cards I never opened. A second mortgage on the house I'd worked 12 years to buy. I run into burning buildings for strangers. I couldn't see the fire in my own house. My captain didn't say anything at first. Just stood next to me while I flipped through page after page, seeing my signature, or something that looked exactly like my signature, on documents I'd never seen before. Finally, he put his hand on my shoulder again. "You need to go home," he said quietly. "Sort this out." I looked up at him, and I saw something in his eyes I'd never seen before. Doubt. After 14 years of working side by side, running into hell together, he was looking at me like he didn't know who I was. "Cap, I don't know what this is." "Go home," he repeated. "Figure it out. Come back when you've got answers." I drove home in a daze. The whole way, I kept telling myself there had to be an explanation. Identity theft. A clerical error. Someone hacking into our accounts. My wife would know what to do. She handled all our finances. She'd been doing it since we got married 12 years ago. She was the organized one, the one who balanced checkbooks and filed taxes and made sure everything was paid on time. I just worked my shifts and trusted her. Trusted her completely. When I walked through the door at 3 p.m. on a Tuesday, she was sitting at the kitchen table with her laptop. She looked up, startled. I wasn't supposed to be home for another 17 hours. "What are you doing here? Is everything okay?" I put the folder on the table in front of her. I didn't say anything. I just watched her face. And I saw it. The moment of recognition. The flicker of pure terror before she got control of her expression. It lasted maybe half a second, but I'd been reading faces in crisis situations for 14 years. I know what fear looks like when someone realizes they've been caught. "What is this?" she asked, but her voice was wrong. "Too controlled. Too careful." $200,000, I said. Loans in my name. A second mortgage I didn't know about. Credit cards I never applied for. They came to the station today. Debt collectors. In front of my captain. In front of my crew. She closed her eyes. Her hands were shaking. And then she started to cry. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry. I was going to tell you. I was going to fix it. I just needed more time." "Fix what? Tell me what? What the hell is going on?" And then she told me everything. Update 1, the truth. It started 6 years ago. Online poker, of all things. She'd started playing on her phone while the kids were napping, just to pass the time. She won a few $100s her first week, and something clicked in her brain. That's how she described it, a click. Like a switch being flipped. Within 6 months, she'd moved from poker to slots to blackjack to sports betting. She had accounts on a dozen different sites. She deposited our entire savings, $18,000, and lost it all trying to win it back. That was 5 years ago. The first loan was for $10,000. She told herself she'd win it back and pay it off before I ever knew. She forged my signature on the application, used our address, our joint bank account. It was approved in days. She lost that money in a week. So she applied for another loan. And another. And then a credit card. And then the second mortgage. She was gambling while I was saving lives. Every overtime shift I worked, she was losing it faster than I could earn it. The money came in, and she gambled it. She won sometimes, just enough to convince herself she could win it all back. She'd have a good week, pay off one credit card, and then lose triple that amount the next month. The wins kept her chasing. The losses kept her desperate. She gambled while the kids were at school. She gambled during my 24-hour shifts. She gambled in the bathroom at her mother's house on Thanksgiving. She stayed up until 3 a.m. spinning slot machines on her phone while I slept beside her, exhausted from running calls. For 5 years, she maintained a perfect facade. The house was clean, the kids were happy, dinner was on the table when I got home. She smiled, she laughed, she made love to me, she told me she loved me, and then she'd slip away to the bathroom and bet another $1,000 we didn't have on the outcome of a basketball game. The gambling sites had been banned on our home Wi-Fi after she tried to stop once, so she used her phone's data. When I asked about the high phone bills, she said she'd been watching too many videos. She forged my signature over 200 times. Applications, contracts, modifications. She had a special pen she used, practiced until she could do it perfectly. She kept the documents hidden in a locked file box in the garage that I thought contained old tax returns. She intercepted the mail every single day. If a bill or statement came for one of the accounts, she grabbed it before I could see it. She set up electronic statements to a secret email address. She answered calls from creditors on her cell phone during the day and promised them payments that never came. When the creditors started calling my phone, she told me it was spam and showed me how to block the numbers. I believed her. My captain looked at me like I was a stranger. 20 years of reputation, gone in a conversation with debt collectors. I sat in my kitchen and listened to my wife of 12 years confess to committing felonies against me for half a decade, and I felt like I was watching it happen to someone else. Like I was floating somewhere above my own body, looking down at this stranger who shared my face. "I have a disease," she said, sobbing. "It's a disease. I couldn't stop. I tried so many times. I deleted the apps, I closed accounts, but I always went back. It's like being possessed. I wasn't myself." "You forged my signature," I said. My voice was flat. "Dead. 200 times. I know. I'm sick, I needed help. You stole from our children's college funds." She flinched like I'd hit her. I'd checked by then. Our accounts, the ones I thought held $23,000 for our 8-year-old and $18,000 for our 5-year-old, were empty. She'd drained them 4 months ago. I was going to put it back. I had a system, I was going to win enough to... "Stop," I said. "Just stop. She has a disease. Maybe she does. But diseases don't forge your husband's signature 200 times. Diseases don't lie to your face every single day for 5 years. Diseases don't steal from your children. I slept in my truck that night. I couldn't be in the same house with her. I sat in the driveway until 4 a.m., staring at the house I'd apparently given away without knowing it, and I tried to figure out how to survive this. Update 2. The reality check. The next few days were a blur of phone calls, meetings, and documents. I hired a lawyer, paid for with a cash advance from my brother, because I couldn't access credit anymore. She sat me down and walked me through exactly how bad things were. The house had a second mortgage for $93,000. We only had about $40,000 in equity left. My retirement account, the one I'd been contributing to for 14 years, was gone. All of it. $57,000. She'd cashed it out 18 months ago using forged documents. I hadn't noticed because she'd been changing the statements that came in the mail, showing fake balances. The credit cards and loans totaled $124,000, and they were all in my name. My credit score, which had been over 800, was now 412. You have options, my lawyer said carefully. She committed identity theft and forgery. Multiple felonies. If you file a police report and pursue charges, you may be able to dispute some of these debts as fraudulent. And if I do that, she'll likely face prosecution. Multiple counts of forgery, identity theft, fraud. With the amounts involved, she's looking at potential prison time. Several years, possibly. My kids don't know their college funds are empty. They don't know their mom might go to prison. How do I explain any of this? I went to see a counselor 2 days after I found out. Department policy after traumatic incidents, and this qualified. She was a retired firefighter herself, tough and practical, and she didn't sugarcoat anything. You're going to want to save her, she told me. That's what you do. That's who you are. You run into fires. You rescue people. Right now, your brain is screaming at you to rescue your wife from the consequences of her own actions. She's sick, I said. Yes. Gambling addiction is real. It's a recognized disorder. It rewires the brain's reward system. The compulsion is genuine. But, she continued, she made choices. Every time she sat down at a computer and forged your signature, she made a choice. Every time she opened that mailbox and hid a statement from you, she made a choice. Every time she lied to your face about where the money was going, she made a choice. The addiction made those choices feel necessary. It didn't erase her ability to make them. I went home that night. I'd been staying with my brother, and watched my wife through the window before I went inside. She was sitting on the couch with our kids, helping our 8-year-old with homework while our 5-year-old played with blocks on the floor. She looked tired, pale. But she was laughing at something our daughter said, and for a moment, I saw the woman I'd married. I'd met her at a fundraiser for the department 16 years ago. She'd bid $300 on a date with me at a bachelor auction, money she later told me she'd had to borrow from her roommate. Our first date lasted 7 hours. I knew I was going to marry her by the end of it. We'd built a life together. A good life. 2 beautiful kids. A home. Christmas mornings and beach vacations and holding hands in the movie theater like teenagers even after a decade together. And underneath it all, she'd been stealing from me. Lying to me. Destroying everything we'd built, dollar by dollar, forged signature by forged signature. I stood in the dark outside my own house and asked myself, what kind of man am I? The kind who sends his children's mother to prison? Or the kind who lets her get away with it? Update 3. The impossible choices. I took a leave of absence from work. Family emergency, everyone understood, though I could see the questions in their eyes. The rumors had already started. One of the guys from B shift told me he'd heard I was in debt to loan sharks. Another version said I had a gambling problem myself. 14 years of exemplary service, and now the station whispered about me when I wasn't there. My wife checked herself into an outpatient treatment program for gambling addiction. 6 weeks of intensive therapy, group sessions twice a week, weekly meetings with a psychiatrist who specialized in behavioral addictions. She was on medication to help with the impulse control. She attended Gamblers Anonymous every single day. She was trying. I could see that. Whatever had been broken in her brain, she was fighting to fix it. But the wreckage remained. I spent hours on the phone with creditors, explaining the situation, trying to negotiate. Some of them were sympathetic. Most weren't. The second mortgage company threatened foreclosure. The credit card companies started calling daily. My lawyer drew up the divorce papers. I couldn't stay married to someone who had committed crimes against me for 5 years, no matter how much I still loved her. No matter how real her addiction was. You need to understand, she told me, if you divorce her and she declares bankruptcy separately, those debts in your name are still your responsibility. She has nothing. No income, no assets in her name alone. You're going to be left holding everything. I know. Have you considered pressing charges? If you can prove the forgery. I've considered it. I'd done more than consider it. I'd sat in a parking lot outside the police station for 2 hours, the folder of documents on the passenger seat, my hand on the door handle. I'd imagined walking in, filing the report, watching them arrest her. And then I'd imagined my kids, 8 and 5, watching their mother being led away in handcuffs, visiting her in prison, trying to explain to their kindergarten classmates why mommy wasn't at the school play. I couldn't do it. Maybe that makes me weak. Maybe that makes me complicit. I don't know anymore. Update 4. Telling the truth. 3 weeks after the debt collectors showed up at my station, I sat my kids down in the living room and told them that mommy and daddy were going to live in different houses now. I told them it wasn't their fault. I told them we both loved them very much. My daughter cried for an hour. My son just looked confused, then angry. He's 5. He doesn't really understand what divorce means. He just knows something is wrong, and nobody will explain it in a way that makes sense. Their mother moved to an apartment across town. Modest, 1 bedroom, she'd sleep on a pull-out couch when the kids visited. She'd gotten a part-time job at a grocery store, minimum wage, her first job in 10 years. She went to her meetings every day. She hadn't gambled in 5 weeks. I kept the house, for now. The second mortgage payment alone was more than I could afford, but I needed to give the kids some stability. I'd figure out the money somehow. My brother lent me enough to make 1 month's payment. My parents helped with the next. A guy from the station who I wasn't even particularly close to showed up one day with an envelope of cash, $3,000, collected from the crew. "We know something's going on," he said. "We don't need to know what. But you've had our backs for 14 years. Now we've got yours." I cried in my truck after he left. First time I'd cried since this started. I went back to work. Showed up for my shifts, ran my calls, acted like everything was fine. Slowly, the whispers died down. People saw me doing the job like always, and they stopped speculating. My captain pulled me aside after a rough call. House fire, elderly couple didn't make it out. We'd been too late. "You all right?" he asked. "No," I said. "But I'm here." He nodded. "That's enough for now. Some days, that's all I can give. I'm here. I'm showing up. I'm putting one foot in front of the other, even when every step feels like it's through quicksand. My credit is destroyed. I couldn't get a cell phone plan right now if I wanted to. When I tried to rent a car for a work trip, I got denied. My bank account is constantly on the edge of overdraft. The retirement I'd been building for 20 years is gone. I'm 34 years old, and I'm starting over from zero. Actually, from negative 200,000. Less than zero. Update 5. Bitter survival. It's been 8 months now. I declared bankruptcy. Chapter 7. Complete liquidation. I lost the house. The kids and I moved to a 2-bedroom apartment in a complex near the station. It's small, but it's clean, and the kids have adjusted better than I expected. Kids are resilient. More resilient than their father, maybe. My ex-wife has been sober from gambling for 7 months. She goes to meetings religiously. She's in therapy twice a week. She's working full-time now at a non-profit that helps people with addiction, answering phones and filing paperwork. She earns maybe $30,000 a year, but she donates a portion of every paycheck to a gambling addiction hotline. Says it's part of her recovery. We share custody. Week on, week off. It's strange, co-parenting with someone who destroyed your life. Standing at the door for pickups and drop-offs, making small talk about the kids' schedules while trying not to think about the 200 forged signatures. The drained retirement account. The years of lies. She's apologized more times than I can count. She writes me letters sometimes, handwritten, part of her recovery program, taking responsibility, acknowledging the harm, not asking for anything in return. Just accountability. I don't know what to do with those letters. I keep them in a drawer. I don't read them anymore, but I can't throw them away either. Here's the thing about addiction. It's real. The brain changes. The compulsion becomes almost impossible to resist. I've read the research. I've talked to the therapists. I understand, intellectually, that my wife was in the grip of something that warped her judgment and overwhelmed her impulse control. But she still made choices. Every forged signature was a choice. Every lie was a choice. Every day she watched me go to work, knowing she was going to steal from me while I was gone. That was a choice. She says she has a disease. She does. But the disease didn't hold the pen. She did. She tells me she's better now. That she'll never gamble again. That she's a different person, that the treatment has worked. Maybe that's true. I hope it is, for our children's sake. But trust doesn't come back. Not after this. Some things, once broken, can't be repaired. You can glue a vase back together, but the cracks remain. The structural integrity is gone. It might hold water, but you wouldn't fill it with anything precious. I loved her. Part of me still does. You can't spend 12 years building a life with someone and just switch that off. But I can't trust her. I can't be with her. And every time I look at my children, I see both the life we built together and the ruins she left behind. Last month, I got my first credit card since the bankruptcy. Secured, with a $500 limit. I use it to buy gas and pay it off immediately. Slowly, painfully, I'm rebuilding. Next year, I'll start contributing to a new retirement account. $40 a paycheck, all I can afford. At this rate, I'll be able to retire when I'm 90. My daughter asked me last week why we don't live in our old house anymore. I told her things change sometimes, and we have to adapt. She accepted that. She's 8, she doesn't need the truth yet. Someday, when she's older, I'll tell her what happened. Not to poison her against her mother, but because she deserves to understand why her father starts over at 34 with nothing. Because she deserves to know about the disease that runs in families, the warning signs, the need for help when things spiral out of control. But not yet. For now, she just knows that Daddy is tired a lot, and Mommy lives somewhere else, and things are different now. She adapts. Kids adapt. They're better at it than we are. Final thoughts. There's no justice in this story. I want to be clear about that. My wife committed crimes against me for 5 years. Identity theft. Forgery. Fraud. If I had pressed charges, she would have gone to prison. She would have deserved to go to prison. I didn't press charges. I made that choice for my children, not for her. Maybe it was the right choice. Maybe it was wrong. I don't know anymore. She's sober now. She's getting help. She's trying to be a good mother to our kids. And I'm here, bankrupt, divorced, living in a 2-bedroom apartment with a $500 credit limit and a retirement account that starts from zero at 34. I run into burning buildings for strangers. I couldn't see the fire in my own house. That's the part that haunts me. Not the money. Money can be earned again. Not even the betrayal. I'm learning to live with that. It's the blindness. The complete failure to see what was happening right in front of me. My wife spent 5 years lying to my face, and I never suspected. Not once. Every time she said, "I love you," every time she talked about our future, every time she smiled at me across the dinner table, she was hiding this. And I saw nothing. What does that say about me? About my judgment? About my ability to read the people closest to me? I trusted her completely. That trust wasn't naive, it was built on years of love, partnership, shared experiences. We'd been through hard times before. We'd supported each other. We'd built something real. And underneath it all, there was this. I'm working on forgiving myself for not knowing. The therapist says that's important, not blaming myself for someone else's deception. But it's hard. I'm a firefighter. Reading situations, assessing danger, protecting people, that's my job. And I failed at it in my own home. So here I am, 34 years old, divorced, bankrupt, living in an apartment that smells like the neighbor's cooking, rebuilding a life that should have been solid. But my kids are healthy. My ex-wife is sober. I'm still showing up for my shifts, still doing the work that matters. It's not justice. There's no satisfying ending where the person who hurt me faces consequences and I'm made whole. But it's survival. And right now, that's enough. Some days, that's all there is. You keep going. You put one foot in front of the other. You show up for your kids, show up for your crew, show up for the next person who needs help. And you carry the weight. You don't put it down, because you can't. You just learn to walk with it. That's where I am. Walking with it. Edit. Thank you for all the support and messages. I can't respond to everyone, but I'm reading them. To those dealing with a spouse's gambling addiction, please don't wait until debt collectors show up at your work. Check your credit reports. Look at the accounts. Ask the hard questions now. And to those in recovery from gambling addiction, I see you. I know it's real. I know it's hard. Get help before you destroy someone who loves you. I wish my wife had asked for help 5 years ago. We might still have a marriage. We might still have a home. Our kids might still have their college funds. But she didn't. And now we're all learning to live with what's left. Here's what I learned from losing everything to someone I trusted completely. You can love someone and still be destroyed by them. I run into burning buildings for strangers. I couldn't see the fire in my own house. For 5 years, my wife forged my signature. 200 times. Loans, credit cards, a second mortgage I didn't know existed. She drained my retirement, $57,000 I'd saved for 14 years. She emptied our kids' college funds. She did it all while I worked overtime trying to build us a better future. She was gambling while I was saving lives. Every overtime shift I worked, she was losing it faster than I could earn it. Debt collectors showed up at my fire station. In front of my captain. In front of my crew. My captain looked at me like I was a stranger. 20 years of reputation, gone in a conversation with 2 men in suits. She says she has a disease. Maybe she does. Gambling addiction is real. The brain changes. The compulsion becomes almost impossible to resist. I've read the research. I understand, intellectually, that she was in the grip of something that warped her judgment. But diseases don't forge your husband's signature 200 times. Diseases don't intercept the mail every single day for 5 years. Diseases don't look you in the eye and say, "I love you," while stealing everything you've built. My kids don't know their college funds are empty. They don't know their mom might have gone to prison. I didn't press charges. I made that choice for my children, not for her. Maybe that makes me weak. Maybe that makes me complicit. I don't know anymore. I declared bankruptcy. Lost the house. Moved to a 2-bedroom apartment. I'm 34 years old with a $500 credit limit and a retirement account starting from zero. She's sober now. 7 months. Goes to meetings every day. Works at a non-profit helping people with addiction. She writes me letters taking responsibility. I keep them in a drawer. I don't read them, but I can't throw them away. Trust doesn't come back. Not after this. You can glue a vase back together, but the cracks remain. It might hold water, but you wouldn't fill it with anything precious. There's no justice in this story. She committed crimes against me for 5 years. She faced no legal consequences. I faced all of them. But my kids are healthy. My ex-wife is sober. I'm still showing up for my shifts. It's not justice. It's survival. And right now, that's enough. Some days you just keep going. Put one foot in front of the other. Show up for your kids. Show up for your crew. And you carry the weight. You don't put it down, because you can't. You just learn to walk with it.